Tishina Gonzalez here with Vivactiva, and as usual, give me a wave, a hi, hello. Let me know what city, state, or country you may be happen watching me from. And as you watch the replay, no matter what venue it is, if it is Instagram, Facebook, or later on YouTube, then hashtag replay. So again, Tishina Gonzalez, Vida Activa, your favorite holistic wellness coach. And today I got a topic that's a little bit heavy. I was sitting here like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. But as usual, I always try to keep it real, and I always try to just take y'all on a journey with me and talk about what I'm going through. And so today we are talking about the phases of trauma recovery, because Sunday is the 4-year anniversary of my divorce. And because of that, I have all this stuff that is coming up with childhood trauma, because my marriage was full of emotional abuse. And therefore, I got a lot of that childhood stuff coming up. And I'm going to have to journal about it and, do some things about it. But I was crying a lot today. I don't know if I'm going to cry on this. Hopefully not, because y'all know I don't like to cry in front of other people. But if it happens, it happens. We're good with it. But I looked up some information, because it always helps me to understand, what is the process and what is normal. And there's a quote from Mr. Rogers: everything that is mentionable is manageable. And so when you talk about it, it makes it easier and you know how to deal with things. So, found an article as usual. So recovery is the primary goal for people who have experienced trauma, their families, and their care providers. Recovery does not necessarily mean complete freedom from post-traumatic effects. Recovery is an individual experience and will be and look different for everyone. In general, recovery is the ability to live in present without being overwhelmed by the thoughts and feelings of the past. Central to the experience of trauma is helplessness, isolation, and the loss of power and control. The guiding principles of trauma recovery are the restoration of safety and empowerment. Trauma recovery is best to be looked upon as a process that is worked on over time and in intentional stages. The reestablishing of safety is the first and most central step in recovery, separate and apart from whether the details of the trauma are ever spoken of or not. So the first step in trauma recovery is safety and stabilization. So people affected by trauma tend to feel unsafe in their bodies and in their relationships with others. Regarding a sense of safety may take days to weeks with acutely traumatized individuals, or months to years with individuals who have experienced ongoing or chronic abuse, which is now what areas of life need to be stabilized, and how that will be accomplished will be helpful in moving forward in recovery. So a person who experienced trauma may struggle with regulating or soothing difficult emotions in everyday life, which they may not associate directly to the trauma. Learning how to regulate and manage these difficult, overwhelming emotions. Some people who experience trauma, particularly complex trauma, again, which is my case, may find that speaking about their experiences emotionally overwhelming. Therapists and researchers have recently found that exploring nonverbal ways to foster emotional regulations may be helpful. So several studies have suggested that mindfulness-based stress reduction and acupuncture for post-traumatic stress disorder reduces negative emotions. And there's also lots of self-soothing practices, such as deep breathing, mindful movement, things of that nature. And you guys know that I do all of those things. So this is something that I can help individuals with. There's also just lots of neuroscience techniques that have been proven to help soothe the nervous system. And you can work with a traditional therapist in order to go through those as well. You can use them at the same time. And there's also just, traditional supplements, different things that are found in various cultures, all of which I use. Like, in order to do this, I made sure I use lots of emotional oils, been using acceptance recently a lot. So they gave this really awesome metaphor for how you have to create safety and think about it and why it's going to take time. The experience of emotional overwhelm is similar to that of a shaken bottle of soda. Inside the bottle is a tremendous amount of pressure. The safest way to release the pressure is to open and close the cap in a slow, cautious, and intentional manner so as to prevent an explosion. So in the beginning stages of recovery, that's what you have to do. So I went through most of phase 1 from 19 to 21. So as I share with everyone, extremely abusive childhood in every way imaginable, physical, emotional, and sexual. And I blocked out my childhood. And then when I was like 17, it started coming back in flashbacks due to different things. So I was a little bit off track. 19, was in therapy and had to be on medication in order to stabilize myself for anxiety. So I went through most of phase 1 early on during that. Now, phase 2. Phase 2 is remembrance and mourning. So this task shifts the processing the trauma, putting words and emotions to it and making meaning of it. The process is usually undertaken with a counselor or therapist in group and or individual therapy. It might not be necessary or required to spend a lot of time in this phase. It is, however, necessary to be continuing to attend to the safety and stability during this phase. Attending to safety allows the person affected by trauma to move through this phase in a way that integrates the story of the trauma rather than reacts to it in a fight, flight, or freeze response. Pacing and timing are crucial during this phase. If the person affected by the trauma becomes quickly overwhelmed and emotionally flooded when talking about their trauma memories, safety and stability must be regained before moving further on with the story. The point is not to relive the trauma, nor is it to tell this story with no emotions attached. This phase involves the important task of exploring and mourning the losses associated with the trauma and providing space to grieve and express their emotions. So I did some of this when I was 21, probably more related to the sexual and physical abuse, but I'm realizing that I didn't do enough or a lot of it when it came to emotional abuse. So yes, the oils usually are scented because they have specific things that they do for specific issues, and some are emotional, some are physical, but there are ones that have light scents to answer that question. So phase 3, reconnection and integration. So in this phase, there must now be a creation and a new sense of self and a new future. This final task involves redefining oneself in the context of meaningful relationships. Through this process, the trauma no longer is defining and organizing principle is someone's life. The trauma becomes integrated into their life story, but is not the only story that defines them. In the third stage of recovery, the person affected by trauma recognizes the impact of the victimization, but are now ready to take concrete steps towards empowerment and self-determined living. In some cases, people who have experienced trauma find a mission through which they can continue to heal and grow, such as talking to youth or peer mentoring. Successful resolution of the effects of trauma is a powerful testament to the resiliency of human spirit. And so obviously this is kind of what I do. I share my journey with people. It's healing and helpful for me as I learn. And so I've been a holistic wellness coach now for 6.5 years. I integrated life coaching so that I could do more emotional things. And it just started out with helping people balance their emotions. But as I continue on my journey of healing, now I can integrate some of this support for trauma into it as well, as I learn more neuroscience techniques, as I learn more ways to help people. So it is becoming part of what I do when I intend to help people. So things to remember at the end and reminders that I myself needed. Again, this week is going to be rough for me. I did a lot of crying today. Recovery is an individual process and will look different for everyone. There is an intense desire to feel well quickly, and individuals can feel that the process is taking too long or they're not doing it right. Recovery is not defined by complete absence of thoughts or feelings about the traumatic experiences, but being able to live with it in a way that it isn't in control of your life. It is important to be gentle, patient, and compassionate with yourself as you move through this healing process. And so, today I was able to do everything that I needed to do at work. I was able to I have a group session that I benefit from, but I also support with some neuroscience techniques that helps with emotional wellness. I was able to be present for that. I was able to be present for the class that we had at 5, and I was still able to do my lives. So that's the important part. Even though I am currently in the middle of part of phase 2 when it comes to processing and probably mourning and doing some things when it comes to emotional abuse, and I'm trying to move as quickly into phase 3 as I can with that, I was able to do what I needed to do and feel those emotions and still behave as a productive adult and tend to all of my tasks. It didn't take me 100% off course. So that is what I want to share with you guys today. Again, you guys know I always say that I am my most important client, and I just taking you guys on the journey with me and letting you guys know that I'm in the trenches with you. So if you know anyone that has experienced some type of trauma, small or big, and they need this information, please share this information with them. And anybody, anytime, reach out to me if you want a little bit of support. So thank you guys for watching me as usual. And don't forget to tell me where you are watching me from. And I will talk to you later. Happy Feel Good Friday. Bye, guys.